had much problems because we spent 3 months preparing it, and those months we really found ourselves in strange situations, basically because we made this movie in 2011 and with an iPhone 4, and back then no one had made a full feature film with a phone before. There had been short films and music videos, but when we were doing the film, we needed to make long takes, like 15 or 20 minute takes, and we discovered that the iPhone is a very unstable format because as the battery goes down, the frame rate changes, and if you shot very long, coming. So if you shoot very long clips, it also gives corrupt files and stuff. So we did, and because no one had done it before, it wasn't as easy as to Google the answer. So we had to really develop different things, try different apps. We even had a guy from Apple working with us for a while. And yeah, so the pre-production was hard, but then the shooting was pretty smooth.
It's also a film that we could actually also see as a found footage film, which was not as sort of a worn out concept at the time that you were making it. But what is your overall take on the situation with the found footage film?
It's not a format that I like very much, the found footage film, because I found it very limited. So when we decided to make this film, there were some found footage, but we said, well, this is a film that's going to be shot with a phone, but it doesn't necessarily need to be a found footage film. Found footage films, they usually try to sell you that it's something that happened in real life. Well, not anymore, but in 2010 or something, all the films were kind of realistic, like the style of the Blair Witch Project. So when we were doing this film, because we knew that we were shooting with an iPhone before writing the script, we really just sort of using the iPhone as another character. That's why people get bit with the iPhone, it gets wet, wherever, and never approaching it as a found footage film, especially because I didn't want it to be realistic. The sound design is not realistic, the story is definitely not realistic, and I also wanted to play with the genre because I like horror films, but I've never been a big horror film fan, and I've never done horror before this, so I usually make comedies and drama, so I wanted to make something that was in between genres and focusing on found footage a lot. I think it was too narrowing too much the style.
Question from the audience? One in the back.
About the sound recording, did you record on the iPhone or did you have an external hard drive with a boom?
No, we had an external microphone, but we basically did all the sound in post-production because it was very hard for us. It was a very narrow house, and it was the DP, the director of photography, was holding the camera, the actor was behind him, putting the hands or whatever. Then there was another guy with a router because we were sending the signal via Wi-Fi to a monitor where I was looking in another room. And then behind that there was the sound guy, so it was a lot of people moving in a very narrow space. And when the guy had to turn, like they all had to make strange movements. And so sometimes the sound was not the best that you could get, and that's the reason why most of the sound was made in post-production and nothing with the phone because really the microphone that we had was very directional, so it could focus a lot on the words of the actors, and the phone was like in the middle of all the action, so the sound that we got from it was all steps and people moving and not very I don't know this word, sound that you can use in the film. Sorry about my English anyway.
More questions?
How did you come up with the story where the second guy kind of goes insane in the end? I mean, that was like really typical in a horror movie like this.
Yeah, well, as I said, when I started approaching this film, I just wanted to make something that I had never done before, okay. And doing something that I had never done before was also trying to put as much limitations as I could, like shooting with a phone, but also like big part of the movie it's like in one shot almost, like not a real one shot, but it's like faking it. And also I wanted to make a movie with a psycho killer who doesn't kill anyone because I found it funny. It was a series of these things that I found interesting. Also the movie to me, it wasn't that much about the horror. I just wanted to make a movie about like when a guy gets a girlfriend, it usually loses between 1 or 3 friends. I just wanted to make a movie about friendship and saying that like bad girl in the movie. To me, it's a metaphor of girlfriends. When you get a girlfriend, usually you get in trouble with your friends, and it can destroy a relationship with a friend. And I'm pretty against this. I hope that in the future people will be able to compensate the relationship with girlfriends and friends.
Do you see this as a rape revenge film? And what's with victim blaming? Because like lighting a hole in the chest, I get like this messages.
Well, okay, can you speak a little bit louder, or I can give you the microphone?
Do you see this as a rape revenge film? And if you do, what's with victim blaming? Like writing a hole on the chest? Like there are mixed messages.
Yeah, there's lots of mixed messages. Like I said, I was trying to talk about relationships in a very broad term, so I just wanted to make little comments. Like girls who think that, or boys who think that girls who sleep with guys are whores or bitches, which is something that I don't think. But it's also being about being more open. When a girl sleeps with lots of guys, it's the same as when a guy does with girls. Like there should be no problem about it. And also, when someone gets into a relationship, sometimes it shouldn't be like so close about the relationship and just. I don't know how people here in Spain. You don't hang out with your friend's girlfriend, so it's like two separate worlds. And I don't like this. I think that when you have a girlfriend, it should be like your friend and should be able to hang out with your friends. And I don't know if I answered your question. Yeah? I'm sorry. And it's very hard for me to think and speak in English. So sometimes the message doesn't come across as smooth as I could if I was speaking Spanish or Catalan.
And what about the involvement of Jaume Haume Coletsera, who is the familiar name to at least some members of the audience from the film called Orphan, which we screened in the Night Visions lineup back in the day. How did that come about?
Well, when we finished the film, we got it in the official selection of Sitges, and we really had no money to finish it and put it on the screen. So I started looking for production companies who were making horror movies to see if someone would put the rest of the money needed. And eventually I talked to him, and apparently he was a fan of the shows that I had done before, so he was willing to put all the money, and that's why the movie got finished, and his name is at the beginning of it. So I'm very thankful to him. Without him, I wouldn't be here. I would still be doing something else.
Has the film been traveling a lot now?
Yeah, it took us a long time to finish it because we shot it in 2011, and because we had no money, like the sound design was the worst because the guy who we got is a really good guy in Spain who studied with us, but he could only work on it on some weekends, so it took us almost like a year and a half or two to finish the sound, and then we had no money to finish it until I thought, well, we're going to send it to a festival, let's see if they pick it, and if they do, we'll probably get someone to put the rest of the money. That's what happened, and then at Sitges, it was very well received, and then we started negotiating with sales agents, and I think we got with the company that we are now 2 months later, and they've been focusing more on selling the film to different territories rather than putting it on festivals, because the main purpose of putting a movie on festivals is just to get deals or something, and this sales agency is pretty good and effective, so now it's been sold to many countries where it's going to be released next year, and yeah, it's been to some festivals. I think that last month it was playing in Colorado or something. The actors went there because it was too far away, but I don't keep it the festival.
What about the language question? Did you sort of decide in the first place that it has to be mainly in English in order to make it more sort of sellable for the international market, or?
The main reason we did this movie is because we had done 2 short films that had worked really well, and we want to make movies in the United States because we had some connections that we got from the short films, going to film festivals and stuff. So we went to Los Angeles for a while, and we started talking to producers, and most of them they were willing to work with us because they liked the short films, but they were a little skeptical because in Hollywood apparently it's very it's not very common to produce a foreign person's first movie. So they said, well, it's better if you go to Spain and you make a movie there, then you come back. But in Spain, there's no money. People live on the street. So we thought if we have to make a movie here, it's going to take us 6 years. So we said, well, let's grab the savings that we have. That was like half of the budget that we had for the short that we did before that. It was 7 minutes long. And let's make a movie with this. And probably we're not going to be able to finish the whole movie because with this money and it's crazy, we cannot make the movie. But we'll try to make the movie. Probably we'll end up having some scenes filmed, a script, and then we'll go to Hollywood and say, well, we tried to do a movie, but here's the project. There's some scenes, and use it more like a package. But then eventually the film was completed, and it was a surprise to all of us. And then it was selected on the festival, and then they started selling it to countries, which is something that I had never expected because, as I said, my career is mostly in other genres. So I thought, well, maybe now this movie gets a lot of repercussions, then they're going to think that I'm a horror director, and it didn't happen, so it's good.
More questions from the audience? One in the very back.
Are you thinking of doing more horror? I mean, if your worry is to be counted as a horror director, but do you think it's well, it is a sellable market?
I would make a horror film as long as the script were good. For me, the movies that I like are the movies that have good scripts, no matter what genre they are. But right now, because I usually write my own scripts, I'm not thinking about doing horror. Doing horror, it was a way of, like, we thought that this movie was never going to be finished, so we thought, well, let's use it as an exercise, and we've always made comedies, dramatic comedies. Let's try to make horror, which is something that we've never done before, and see what happens. Mostly to learn, because when you're a young director, as I am, and we just got out of film school when we made this film, and we said, well, the more things that we do and the more variety that we try, the better we'll be prepared in the future if we have to approach projects that may not be horror films, but will be similar in tone in some things maybe. So that was like a big exercise. I'm not thinking of doing horror in the near future, basically because we've been working on a script for 2 years, and I hope that that's going to be our next movie, and it's not a horror movie, and if we end up doing it, it's going to take another 3 to 5 years. So even if I make a horror movie after that one, it will be in 10 years from now, so it's not the near future.
What is the sort of general perception of genre films in the current climate and in Spain? Because like you're now at a Finnish film festival as a part of a Spanish selection, and it seems that there is this kind of Spanish new wave going on and kind of still building up. How's the audience reacting to that? And is the genre film sort of a big thing in Spain?
Well, there's not a big industry in Spain. Like, I walk here on the street and I see posters for Finnish movies. This in Spain, it doesn't really happen. And I think that the fact that they're doing horror movies now is just because of the crisis. Most of the production companies are closing, and they figured out that horror movies are the cheapest and more sellable. So I think they're doing that just because of this. I don't think there's more horror fans or more horror directors in Spain. There's just people trying to survive.
Yeah. But there's a lot of good products out there. There's not only Hooked Up, but there's Red Part 4 playing at the festival, In Darkness We Fall, also known as La Cueva, and then Gabe Ibanez's Automata. So it's like, it seems that there is a lot of genre product coming out of Spain all the time, and it's pretty high quality as well. So is it just that we're seeing the best ones of them, or what kind of situation is it overall?
Yeah. In Spain, right now, they only do horror movies and some dramas, but they're very local dramas. So there's nothing in between. So because of all the money is going to horror, probably the movies with the best production quality or quality in general are going to be the ones transcending. Maybe in the future, if we recover from the crisis, we will be able to export other kinds of genres, which would be great.
So it's horror and then it's torrente. So
yeah, basically. Once in a while, there's something from Almodovar, but even he looks like is going towards horror or strange movies nowadays. So who knows? Maybe just we'll be directing Wreck Fight in the future.
Would you like to do that?
No. But I would like him to do it.
What can you tell us about the collaboration that you had with Michel Gondry quite recently?
Well, it was completely the opposite of this with Jama. Jama, we got him to put some money for something that was made, and with Gondry was, I was in a film festival in France, screening a short film that I had done. It was pretty much a pure luck because I was in the desk trying to get to the screening and I was talking to the girl, but in France they don't speak English, so I was trying to know where I had to go, and then a guy came very nice and he said, "Oh, he translated for me." So I invited him. I said, "Well, do you want to come to watch this short film?" I said, "Yeah, I like short films." Oh, I love short films. We went there, we watched the short film, and then he said, "Oh, I work in France in a production company. I think I'm going to show this to my bosses." I said, "Yeah, well, go ahead. It's on the internet." Next day they called me and they said, "Oh, I showed it to my bosses and they love it, and we're preparing here a collection of films with Michel Gondry. It's an adaptation of Boris Vian, which is a very famous writer in France. Would you like to do one?" I said, "Oh, yeah, why not?" I don't speak French. I said, "No, don't worry." So they gave me the book and I had to adapt it. The book was a little bit boring and outdated, so I changed all the things. It's too bad I cannot tell you where to watch it now because it's premiering in 2 weeks. But maybe in the future it will be on my website. Not here because it's not horror; it's a comedy.
We're broad. We're doing all kinds of things.
Okay.
So
There's someone dying in the short film, but in a funny way. Funnier than this one.
So what else do you have in the pipeline right now?
Well, because I've been working in the script for 2 years, and we still have a little bit to go until it's done. I've pretty much been working on some commercials in between, just because they give you lots of money for a very small period of working. So, but I don't do that many. Like I have to maybe one every 2 months, which is nothing. So, but in the meanwhile, I work on the script because the next script is the movie that we want to make in the United States, and it's a bigger budget film. So the script has to really be pretty good. And it's the worst part writing the script because you're alone in the room. And now I've convinced a friend to quit his job and write with me. So it's going to be more fun.
What can you tell about the content of the American film?
Well, not much because he's a very smart guy, much smarter than me. And when he came and read all the things that I had been doing, he said, "Well, maybe we have to do some changes." And now we rented an office, and we're going to be working there for the next 2 months, and probably everything's going to change. But in a good way. So, I don't know. The only thing I can say about it is that hopefully it will be done one day. If it does, it's going to be a great movie. No matter what it is about, which I don't know yet.
All right. So, thank you, Pablo, for coming.
Thank you all for coming.